Yeah, that was me beatboxing at the end. You kind of have to see it to understand. Actually, it still wouldn't make sense. So anyway, my name is Ian Hubert, and I'm making a little how to make ships fly around and look kind of decent tutorial. Hope you enjoy it or learn something from it. So anyway, we have that shot you just saw. And it's like, oh my goodness, that shot must have been pretty hard. Not really. I mean, I'm not going to go into how to model and animate and render the ships. This is just a compositing tutorial. So, how do we make it? Well, it starts out with a ship. And it's animated. Nice ship, huh? I really like it. Now, I actually animated and rendered it while studying for finals. That was no fun at all. You can see some of the glitches in the rendering, but those really won't matter when you finally see it in motion, because they'll kind of disappear once you add motion blur. Heck yes. Now, I rendered out the ship with an alpha channel, which, if you're not rendering out your ships with alpha channels, do it, because they're like the secret to everything. Relative motion can make your shots seem so much cooler than they really are, and I'm going to demonstrate that. In fact, no, I just decided I'm going to make an entire new shot just for this tutorial, just because I can. So, take a look at this shot here that we got. You know, it's just the ship we've been looking at for a while. And the great thing about it is we can just keyframe it, one on the left and one on the right, and it looks like it's flying by. But see, that's something I did not expect. I forgot that it started twirling about halfway through. So it kind of flying and then it starts spinning. What would cause that? Well, getting hit by another ship or an explosion would. So let's have it get hit or hit by an explosion or something halfway through. Now, the ship we're looking at was actually made for SPFP, Spacemen Belong in the Future probably, spacemenmovie.com, and in this movie, there was actually a scene in which this spaceship is chased by many other smaller ships, and here's an example of what that smaller ship looks like. So really all I'm going to do is I'm going to key out the black. Actually, it already has an alpha channel. Don't have to key out the black. Just plop it into your After Effects file, scale it down, and I'm actually going to parent it to the larger ship. And I have this Steam from Detonation Films. Go to detonationfilms.com. They're the best website ever. And I'm just going to speed it up and parent that to the back of the little ship that hits the bigger ship. And there it is all together. Hey, doesn't that look great? But look at that smoke. That's not very realistic. It's all being blasted straight back, even though because of the relative motion of the, ship sticking out of the other ship, it should be kind of going out at different angles. We can fix this fairly easily with just a little twirl filter. And so I'm just going to plop that on there and center it, and hey, check it out. That looks sweet, because it looks now like it's coming out and then kind of going in, and it even looks like it's caught in the slipstream a little bit. Causes some, like, vortex. Haha, I'm doing CG too long. I don't even know. I don't know, man. I just know it looks awesome. There it is. I also have from Detonation Films these sweet explosions, and I'm going to set those to screen and slap them onto the ship, parent them on. Isn't that awesome? Yes, it is. In my opinion, you don't have to think it's awesome. I'm not dictating what you have to think, but now comes the relative motion part. This is the part where, if you've been zoning out, listen, because it's so exciting to me. We have these clouds, right? It's just a cloud image, and I zoom in, and I keyframe it just from, like, left to right. Just 2 keys, that's it. There it is, and look, the ship. Can put the ship on there, and hey, now the ship looks like it's going fairly fast. However, I want some depth to it. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take that background layer, I'm going to zoom it in even more, and move it, and that'll give me more area, so I can actually move from the left to right even more, which is awesome. And I'm going to increase the contrast and set it to screen. And increasing the contrast makes it the clouds are more defined, and actually looks as if there's clouds now passing in front of the other ship. And this looks good, but really, if you were up there flying next to a spaceship, you'd have to be flying, pretty fast in an airplane, and if you're just sticking your arms out the window with this video camera, they'd probably be buffeted around by the wind. So, how exactly do we add shake? Well, if you're in After Effects, it's relatively easy. You just make 2 keyframes, one at the beginning of the shot and one at the end of the shot, on a null object, and first I'm going to start out with 4 shakes per second in the wiggler. Open up the wiggler, window wiggler. Pops up a little window, it's sweet. Go to 4 shakes per second with a magnitude of 5. I think that could work. Maybe it's the other way around, I don't remember. Because I just want some big shakes first. And that looks good. And then let's go in, I'm going to add in And I'm going to add in a bunch of kind of smaller shakes, 15 per second with a magnitude of 11, which is kind of intense, but I think it'll work. Now the big trick really comes in with rotation, because a lot of people just kind of do the horizontal vertical shake, which really doesn't work. Like you won't be able to tell in this example, but the shots are improved so much by the inclusion of a rotational shake, because it just adds that like third dimension. I love it so much. So there we go. Oh, doesn't that look good? The cool thing about camera shake in After Effects is that because we're just working it with a bunch of layers, we can shake it as much as we want. In fact, we could start looking off of the ship and move on because it's all just layers. It's kind of this infinite space until you get to the edge of the cloud plane. So you don't even have to worry about like zooming in afterwards, to hide the black edges that appear if you just add motion shake to normal shot. But the most wonderful thing about After Effects is you can just check the little motion blur box and turn it on, and instantly everything is just like blended together. It has motion blur, the clouds are blurring by, the ship's blurring, the steam is blurring, everything is blurring, and it just ties together. It even hides a lot of the artifacts that we saw in the original render. So, isn't that, look at that, we made that in like 2 minutes. It was so fast. I made it beforehand, you know that, but still, it only took me like a couple minutes. It was not very hard. So, back to the original shot. So we have these clouds, and I dig the clouds, but in airplanes and stuff, sometimes when you see out on the wing, especially when they're in like the lower atmosphere, I don't even know what it is, you see I think they're called contrails coming off. They're like little wisps of smoke. I decided I really wanted those to just add a little touch of realism to the movie, so I'm going to add a beam effect, and I'm going to just put it on there, make it gray. The inside I want to be slightly darker than the outside, although you can't tell yet when it's on black. But because nothing's perfect, I'm going to add a little bit of turbulent displace. Now, turbulent displace is one of the greatest filters ever made, ever. Look it up if you haven't gotten into it. It's awesome. And I'm going to add some, and see, now it looks kind of like it's actually like vapor coming off of the ends of these wings. And I'm going to composite on original after adding some horizontal blur, and I'll just slap that onto the ship and parent it to the ship. I'm pretty excited. Yeah. So what happens next? I'm going to double it later on, but because I messed up while making this tutorial, I don't double it yet. Now, have you guys ever like done a key of something, and you've done a green screen, or maybe you've used PNGs before? .png, that's a type of file that actually has an alpha channel built into it. So if you're ever rendering out of your 3D program, use a .png with the alpha turned on, and it has good compression and has the alpha channel, which is like magic. Anyway, have you ever tried to use something with an alpha channel and trying to add a glow to it in After Effects? And you notice while it does add the glow, it also seems to add this black halo around your object. There may be another way around it, but I've decided it's just easier to make your own glow. So I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the ship, I'm going to duplicate it, get rid of all of its motion, parent it to the original ship just to make life easier. I'm going to increase the contrast so only the brightest points are still there, and I'm going to make them brighter. I'm going to blur it a bit, then I'm going to desaturate it and paste it onto the original ship, and then it'll just kind of add a little bit of glow or highlight or glinting off of the brightest parts on the ship, which I think is really awesome. It's hard to tell from this example, but it does work. So now I'm going to bring this all back in, and I'm going to remember those clouds we already made with like the higher contrast and they're moving by faster. I'm going to composite that over the other one, kind of, and see, and it just ties it all in there. And I'm going to, over the entire thing, I'm going to use an adjustment layer and mess with the levels and mess with the contrast and brightness, and I'm going to add the CC toner filter, which is really cool. Just kind of adds a little bit of color to it. One thing that I like doing with entirely CG shots, or any shots really, is adding, I think they called it a vignette, I don't even know, but just sort of darkening the edges because of the way the film cameras worked. Not as much light got onto like the edges of the film to develop it, so it's a bit darker. I didn't do that personally for this shot, but I think it looks nice if you decide to. So hey, we got all that done. I add the camera shake like before, both horizontal, vertical, high shaking, slightly finer shaking, and the rotational shaking, and turn on the motion blur. Hey, there's the finished shot. And the one thing you'll notice is that I did actually, take the ship animation, I drug it all over the screen, so the camera wasn't locked on it. That's oftentimes a sign of a CG shot, is when you see the camera locked right onto the ship, so the ship's in the exact center. Well, that doesn't look very good. You can make that better. So, I drug the ship all over, and I tried to make it kind of move the ship, and then I'd move the camera, I was trying to make it look like the camera is keeping up. Oh, the way I made it look like I was moving the camera was actually just moving the background cloud layer. Like I would just, if I wanted to make it look as if the ship is flying down, I just raise up the cloud layer so that, like move it up so that you're looking at lower down on the cloud layer so it looks like the ship flew down. It's really cool. And that was actually the hardest part, just trying to make sure that all lined up. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys have good luck, good time, happy ship doing stuff. Hope you enjoy the tutorial. Adios. It's Spanish for goodbye.